Hey guys, this is just the intro part. What you can see in front of you, some Wurttemberg artillery, foot artillery crew, and there's a gun over here from Piano Wargames. Now, I'm going to take you through some of the stages of painting these guys, but what I wanted to say at the outset before I get anything in the comments, because it does happen from time to time, is sometimes people say, why don't you show us you actually painting? I can't do it. I don't have the camera set up. This is just my mobile phone on a tripod. I can't get it to a position where I can happily work and show you guys what I'm doing. I can't afford a fancy camera rig. I don't have a lot of space. I'm at my old roll top desk in the master bedroom. It's the only space I have. Further equipment and things like that is just not really possible, including a monitor to see what I'm doing and what I'm filming. So I'm just going to give it to you in chunks, like cutting to what paints I've used, what each stage kind of looks like. I can't actually show you me applying brush to figure. There are some fantastic channels who do that and have got the setup to do that. But at this stage in my life, I'm unable to do that. So I just wanted to say that before, just in case people do comment and say, please show us, you actually putting paint on the miniature. Can't do it, guys. Can't do it. Not at this stage. But I hope you find this interesting. It'll probably be at least a two-parter. I thought I'd just release this now. It kind of finishes abruptly at the end, but I'm going to come back and do some more, maybe, and show you maybe the whole thing with the crew and the gun assembled at the very end. And yeah, the sort of paints I'm using. So I hope you find it interesting. Bye for now. G'day everyone. Just a bit of a work in progress thing. I'll probably do a few snippets and maybe stick them together. Not my usual sort of video. I'm working on the Wurttemberg foot artillery here from Piano Wargames. They're at sort of ugly looking stage where they've had all the base colors put on, and then the washes applied, so they look kind of pretty mucky. So I'm just starting to go back over the flesh tones first. Just my way of doing it. Other people leave the skin till last. Whatever, doesn't really matter. Whatever works for you. So so they're the colors that I'm going to use from that I've been using lately from a flesh triad. They look quite bright there and light, but actually they work pretty well, tie together pretty well. They're Scalecolor colors from their flesh set. Pink flesh, golden skin, pale skin. They tie together pretty well. And then I always use a bit of a glaze afterwards, just with a bit of water, really thinned out, of the old ever useful Vallejo Cavalry brown. That colour's excellent, useful for so many things. So I use that like really thinned out just to under their cheeks, very thin, and then a little line of it on the bottom lip, just to sort of glaze in, get a bit of colour to the bottom lip and a bit of extra shadow to the under the cheeks. It gives them a bit more life. Yeah, so now, the other thing, working with Mark, who I'm doing these for, we're sort of talking back and forth, and he's got some good reference books on the Wurttemberg ones. I think they're a more recent publication from Stephen Summerfield, I think, published by Ken Trotman Books. Excellent reference for the whole Wurttemberg army for this period. We're sort of aiming at 1809 for these guys. Now initially I pulled out some blues, but I've done a bit more looking, a bit more thinking. I did base coat these guys with this, which is a scale 75 Mediterranean blue, but I won't be staying with that. I mean, they've got that on them, but they've had the brown wash over the top, but I won't be going back with that. What I've done, looking at the pictures he sent, and then just this morning I was looking at the old classic Haythornthwaite book, the Napoleonic Source book, and there's a little section in there where he talks about the sort of colors that were used, and what they kind of looked like, and the cornflower blue, which these guys are described as wearing, is really more of a grey blue. And I read another thing about somewhere else that said it's a blue that really doesn't have any sort of green in it, so, which sounds odd, but but it's probably more towards the violet sort of lavender end, but not really. It's more of a anyway, grey blue. And I was having a look, and these look to be the best bet, actually. This is the shadow. These are some Reaper ones. For a change, the labels haven't faded. This is this is Templar blue, so that's great as a shadow, and this is the main sort of color. And I could probably go lighter with it than that, added some off-white or something. This is called, get your hand out of the way, John. Ashen blue. So it's more of a grey blue. I don't know if it shows up very well on the camera. Doing a bit of wobbly cam here. No, I'm not on the tripod, just holding it with one hand. Yeah, so it's more of a grey blue, so I think that's probably going to work a bit better when we get to the jackets. Anyway, I'll stop here, and maybe I'll dip back in again when I've done a bit more, and we'll just put these snippets together later. Right, there they are with the first base colour on all the flesh. I'm going to do the second highlight next. Okay, next stage of highlight applied. That was the golden skin one. Okay, final highlight. It's going to be this one, pale skin. Okay, so they've had that final flesh highlight, and you can see it makes them look really pale now. Well, that's mainly because the rest of the uniform is so dark with the wash and the base colours and stuff. But once that's all brought together, it'll tie in just right. It'll work, trust me. That's what I do for all my other figures, but right at this stage, it like looks a bit stark. It'll work. So the next bit is I'm going to put the glaze of Cavalry brown under the cheekbones and a bit on the lip. And as I say, that's just really thinned with water, just very, very thin, until, you know, it feels about right. Very hard to give you an exact formula for such a thing. So I'm doing all this with a number 2 sable with a good point on it. Yeah, so that's all I find I need for this. So because these are a good maker brush and a good sable brush that keeps their point. So anyway, I'll do the next glaze bit, and I'll show you what the difference that makes. Okay, this is after they've had the glaze of Cavalry brown around the cheekbones and the bottom lip and stuff. It's pretty subtle, but helps tie it together better. Yeah. Now, with the eyes, it's a bit tricky with these, being with that low peak, particularly in that guy on the end. He's got his head bent down. I'll probably just see if I can get a suggestion of some eyeballs in there. Probably put some what is it called, brown liner, which is a really black brown kind of in there, and maybe a dot of white somewhere if I can manage to get a small enough dot in there. But I might do that later, actually, and move on now perhaps to the blue. Okay, back with more later. Okay guys, I've put the Templar blue over that base I had, and I'm pretty happy with how that's turning out. And then we'll highlight up with Ashen blue, and for a further highlight I'll probably add some like off-white into the Ashen blue. But I'll show you what they look like now at this stage. So I think that's a much better blue. It may not show up super well on the camera, I don't know, but it's I've only just put that on, but yeah, I think that's a bit of slightly duller blue. I think I mean, these are Wurttembergers, but I think this kind of blue, and it is a part of a triad. There is a darker shade again, but to be honest, I'm not sure if you'd need it. If you're painting Bavarians as well, this would probably go pretty well for your Bavarian line infantry for cornflower blue as well. All right, we'll be back later when I've put on the next highlight layer for that coat. Okay, here they are after the Ashen blue highlight. Yeah, happy with that effect. That's I don't know how, as I'm looking through the screen on my camera, it makes it look quite bright, a bright blue, but it's actually, yeah, it's good. It is quite grey. It's a grey blue. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll mix some, I reckon I'll mix perhaps just a tiny bit of off-white and catch some of the highest creases. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I can tell you that in real life with the Mark 1 eyeball, it actually looks a lot grayer than the camera's sort of indicating. All right, back when I've done probably what will be probably the final highlight on the blue. Right, there we go. That's had the final highlight. Maybe the camera will read it as a bit duller once we get some whites onto the, or really light colours, off whites onto the trousers perhaps. But yeah, it's a very much a grey blue. It really is. There we go. So I just sort of selectively highlighted the tops of the shoulders, basically the very bits that would be getting the light on them the most. Okay. Next, I think I'll do the bread bag. There's just a couple that have got bread bags, and for that I'll use this AK Interactive 3rd Generation Decomposed Flesh. Good colour for a bread bag, and probably it might get a highlight, bit of off-white mixed into that as well. All right, back when I've done that. Right, so there's the bread bags done with that decomposed flesh, and then I mixed in some Reaper Creamy Ivory to get a mid-tone, and then some final sort of very high highlights up on the shoulder and bits on the bag. Yeah, to finish with on that. What I might do next is have a look at those trousers. Now I'm thinking, let me see, let's go for a triad of, sorry, I'm throwing you all over the place here. So the initial base coat for it was this medium grey, which is a funny sort of colour, this Vallejo medium grey. It's very similar to Vallejo camo beige, actually. It's a funny sort of colour. And then I'll probably go deck tan, and then with the deck tan I'll mix in for a final highlight. I reckon I'll go with mix in some off-white. So quite a jump up from here to here, but I don't think that'll matter too much, because this will probably be the main one you see, and this will be, you know, highlighting right up with this. And this will be more, this is going to be more in the shadows. I mean, I've already created shadows, significant shadows on there, as you can see, but some of those are probably a bit too dark, so they'll be kind of like, it'll be part sort of covering over with this, part glazing, so still some of that darker stuff shows through, but doesn't completely cover it. So anyway, that's the idea with that. I might not show you each stage. Sing out if you want more stages shown. I'm going to break it up even more, but what I might do is do the trousers now using these three to get up to my lightest point, and then show you what that looks like. I'll probably, I might do the belts at this time as well, perhaps, with the same sort of colours. Not sure. I'll come back to you. I just quickly wanted to show you what that medium grey from Vallejo looks like as a shade colour for white. Just so you get an idea. I've used it on the belt and the trousers. It's a nice, if you want a warmish white, I think it's really good for that. If you wanted to have a colder white, perhaps you might use something like a pale grey base that is, you know, something like that. Maybe that would work just as well. You just get it end up with a different tone, whereas this has got a bit more yellow and brown sort of in it, hasn't it? It's a bit different. Like I say, it's a bit more of a, like the German camo beige. It's not far removed from that. So I just wanted to show you what that looks like before I move on to the deck tan. Okay guys, here they are with the trousers and the belts done. Using that triad kind of system that we were looking at before. So the highest highlight is Off-White. I don't find I have any use for a pure white. Off-White from Vallejo is white enough, really. It's like I've heard other people say before, pure black and pure white just don't really occur naturally. It's a pretty rare thing. Particularly uniforms of soldiers, they're not going to be pristine, just bleached from the laundry white, really. That, you know, overall they look white, but Off-White is fine for your final highlights. So that gives you an idea of how they turned out with that triad. Yeah, so it's basically a layering style. I use all sorts of different techniques, glazes, layers, whatever, blending things, just whatever. Yeah, so pretty pleased with how those turned out. So the next thing to come back to, I guess, I'll start to work on the blacks. I've got to try and get some sort of variation in there, even if it's subtle, because you've got some different textures there. You've got leather boots, you've got fabric, and you've got the crest, which is probably, I'm not sure entirely what it's made of, whether it's wool. It may be wool. But anyway, that will be what we tackle next, and I'll show you what I use for that. Okay, see ya in the next bit.